Hi everybody, I'm back to do a vinyl finds video today. Today's video is going to be a combination of used vinyl record store finds and also some online purchases. I'm trying to get caught up. I've got actually about 20 records to go through, so I'm not going to be saying a lot for each one, and some of them I think I've only played them like once or maybe only a side, so I'll say a few things, but don't want to make this video too long, okay? So first of all, primarily used records from the record store. First one is the Bee Gees Horizontal. So I don't have very many Bee Gees in my collection, and certainly not any of the 70s Bee Gees output, Staying Alive, Saturday Night Fever, that sort of thing. But this is, I think, the Bee Gees' second album from back in the 60s, where they had some psych pop, definitely had some psych pop influences, and I'm really enjoying this. Definitely looking to get some more Bee Gees from the 60s. And some other psych, some of you guys out there have shown this on some psych videos as well, and I certainly agree. This is a great album. And next, a band of mine that I've got quite a few vinyl records. We have the Best of Traffic. And I've passed up on this record a few times because I thought that I had most of the songs on here, but actually this is a Best of Traffic that only covers their first 3 albums. So and those are the albums. I've got the third album, or I've got the self-titled second album, but I don't have Dear Mr. Fantasy and Last Exit. So there's actually quite a few songs on here that I didn't have. So this was a great pickup and fantastic Best of collection, even though it covers only the first 3 albums. And a band that I was unfamiliar with, picked up this compilation for a band called The Nice. For those of you that don't know, this is Keith Emerson's band prior to joining ELP, and this has got some psych prog type material on it. This is excellent. I had no knowledge, or I didn't know what this was going to sound like, but this is fantastic, and I'll definitely pick up some more if I ever come across it. So like I said, this is a comp. I think this band only made 3 albums, so I'll be on the lookout for more, that's for sure. And staying with the psych vein and some psych artists, we have Donovan and his album Cosmic Wheels. This is a bit later period Donovan. I believe this is from '73. It's a little bit heavier than his earlier stuff. Earlier stuff being, Mellow Yellow and Sunshine Superman and those type of albums. This is a little bit heavier, but still has some psych influences for sure. I was really pleasantly surprised with this one, and glad I picked it up. Cosmic Wheels. And a band that I've seen a bit in the VC, but this is my first vinyl record of theirs. First album in any medium is the band Grand Funk, and this is their album Survival. Didn't really know much about Grand Funk's sound, didn't think I would like it, but this is excellent. I believe this is their 4th album, if I'm not mistaken. Really dig this. And definitely will be looking for some more Grand Funk. And an artist that I've been collecting and have shown many times in my videos in the past is Jeff Beck. And this is Jeff Beck's album with Bogart and Appice, 2 former members, I guess, of Vanilla Fudge, and also I think they were in the band, what was the band? Cactus, I think they were. This, of course, includes the great cover of Stevie Wonder's Superstitious. Fantastic stuff on this. And a band that I've shown before. I've shown some Small Faces, or a lot of Small Faces, and some Humble Pie. I got this Humble Pie album, Thunderbox. This is later period Humble Pie after Peter Frampton has left the band. And I definitely like Small Faces more than Humble Pie, but I will pick up any Humble Pie that I see for a good price. This was about $5. It's got the die cut here, but it's missing the proper inner, but doesn't matter, the record plays fine, so I'm happy with that. And in my vinyl tag video, I mentioned that a classic album that I hadn't heard, one of them anyway, was Deep Purple's In Rock. And I passed up on some Deep Purple before, excuse me, but I found this best of comp, 24 Karat Purple. It's only a single disc comp, and most of the material is drawn from their classic second lineup. The only other Deep Purple that I have is Shades of Deep Purple, which is before Ian Gillan, I think is how you say his name, joined the band. So I definitely like that. That was definitely more more of a 60s psych kind of sound, but this is definitely more the harder edge stuff. This is pretty good. It'll take me a while to get used to some of these tracks, and it has a lot of live tracks, I think, from the Made in Japan album, which was a popular album for them. So I'm glad to have that. And a band that I've been trying to complete my 70s collection for is AC/DC, and the one album that I had to get remaining, I finally found this time, and that's Let There Be Rock. This was the last 70s AC/DC that I have. So I have all the albums now up till Back in Black, so I need from for those about to rock onward if I see those for cheap, but definitely happy to get this classic Bon Scott era album. Now we move on to some soul records, and the next one is from a band where their most famous song is This Old Heart of Mine, I think. It was covered by Rod Stewart, and I only knew that song originally from Rod Stewart, and I think a couple of the Isley Brothers, or at least one of them, guested with Rod Stewart on his version of that. But I managed to find the original album that's from, which is a 60s album from the Isley Brothers. Really happy to find this. This is great stuff, great soul on Motown. Fantastic stuff. And continuing in that soul funk kind of vein, still from the 60s, we have this album from Booker T and the MGs, Hip Hugger. From what I've read about this album, this is arguably Booker T and the MGs fans' favorite album of theirs. This is not the album with Green Onions, but this is a fantastic album. And look at that cover. It's just a fantastic 60s cover. Amazing. I love that. And this is great stuff from Booker T. I only had a best of his on vinyl prior to this. So really happy to get this. And another soul classic from two heavy hitters. We have Donny Hathaway and Roberta Flack. This is my first Donny Hathaway album, and I've got 3 other Roberta Flack albums, so I'm really happy to get this. Some great duets by the two of them on this, and let me show you the gatefold on this. Great picture of the two of them. Just look at that. That's just fantastic. I apologize if there's any glare coming through on here, but yeah, that's just awesome. So like I said, great duets album, and both of them play piano, electric piano, some organ. Great stuff. There's some great strings on here as well. Very tastefully done. Great backing band. Really happy to get this classic, and I think this was only $5 or $6. Another soul artist who I only had 2 records prior is Gladys Knight and the Pips. I had one of their 70s albums, I think it's called Imagination, and I had a greatest hits single disc, 12 greatest hits on Motown. But I found this, and this series of anthologies done on some of the Motown artists is fantastic. There's 24 greatest hits on this. Sure, 12 repeat from the one that I've got before, but there's 12 that I didn't have, and I found this for $5, so this was excellent. I'm trying to get some other of these anthologies. We'd really love to get the Marvin Gaye one or the Smokey Robinson and the Miracles one, but this was great to get this just for $5. And my favorite soul band of all time, This was the find of the day on that particular trip. We have the Supremes and their album More Hits from the Supremes. I originally thought this was another greatest hits compilation, but it's not. It's an actual album by the Supremes. Again, back I think mid-60s, maybe their fourth or fifth album, not too sure. And of course the big hits off of this, Nothing But Heartaches, Stop in the Name of Love, and Back in My Arms Again. So really, really happy to get this original album. This was the find of the day. I have a double Supremes greatest hits and some Diana Ross stuff, but this was great find. And moving on to reggae, an artist that I've shown before is Horace Andy. And this is, I guess, a best of comp called Best of Horace Andy, Collie Weed Volume 2. Never seen Volume 1, but you know, this was a good addition. I've got a couple of other Horace Andy compilations. One is a dub compilation, and yeah, I'll always be picking up Horace Andy if I find him out in the wild. And the other reggae release, this one came as a recommendation from a video done by Steve, whose channel is Psych in the Valleys. Steve's over in the UK, and he was doing his best of reggae countdown list, and he showed this album, and I just had to get it. It's Keith Hudson, Pick a Dub, and this is a 2-record set where one of the records is just dub versions of these songs, and this is just utterly fantastic. Great recommendation. Thanks a lot, Steve. Really enjoying this. Showed a little Jeff Beck earlier. This one I got online. I picked up Jeff Beck Live, which is Jeff with his band from, I think, about 4 or 5 years ago. Some of the songs on here, we got Loaded, Plan 9, Morning Dew, Superstition. It covers you know, Jeff's career really, really nicely, and nice pressing. Again, the only thing bothering me from this, I've said this before, double album but no frickin' gatefold. So that's the only thing I would change about that. And then another live album, double record set, and again, no gatefold. We have Jane's Addiction, and this is their album from their tour for their last studio album, The Great Escape Artist, which I really, really enjoyed. It's not, you know, up there with Nothing Shocking and Ritual de la Habitual, but it was, I thought it was a pretty good album. So not gonna find, I really want to get Ritual, but I don't know, that hasn't been reissued, and I've never seen it out in the wild. So I thought I'd get this. It's got about 5 songs from that album. This does sound good, so I'm happy to get that. A band that I haven't shown before because their records are really hard to come by on vinyl, and they, to my knowledge, haven't been reissued, is the band the Mars Volta. So the main 2 members of the Mars Volta are Omar Rodriguez Lopez on guitar and Cedric Bixler Savala on vocals. And the band that they used to be in before the Mars Volta reformed, that band is at the Drive-In, and they came out with this album a couple of years ago, Inter Alia. I'm not as big a fan of this band as I am of the Mars Volta, but I thought I would get this. It's pretty good. It's not bad. The reaction to this has been a little bit mixed. Some people really liking it, other people saying it doesn't compare with their older stuff. And last but not least, again, I've mentioned before, The Small Faces, Humble Pie. I got this album, which is by the 2 main members of The Small Faces. This is an album by Steve Marriott and Ronnie Lane. This album was recorded in 1981, but didn't come out, it had its first release in the year 2000, and then I think subsequently released in 2014. This is the 2014 version on vinyl. The history behind this one is the Small Faces after breaking up and Steve Marriott forming Humble Pie. There was a reunion of the Small Faces in the mid-'70s where so Steve Marriott and Ronnie Lane ended up in blows with each other, and Ronnie Lane left the sessions, and the rest of the band continued without him, and they brought in another bass player. They released 2 albums which really weren't that great. They actually sounded more like Humble Pie light than they did the Small Faces. But then in 1981, Steve Marriott and Ronnie Lane hooked up and they recorded these songs. By that point, unfortunately though, Ronnie Lane was quite ill and was not able to even play bass on those albums. So don't know how much he contributed to Steve's songs, but this appears to be divided right down the middle, with half the lead vocals, half of the songs being Steve Marriott, half of the vocals being Ronnie Lane. At that time, the record they did not get a record deal because Ronnie Lane could not tour because of his health, and so this got shelved and I guess got found many years later. I think this album's excellent. It doesn't sound really like the Small Faces, other than the vocals. There's some nice organ on these songs. It's definitely not as hard as Humble Pie, and I like this actually quite a bit. I think the songwriting on this is excellent, and the vocals on this are excellent. So I think well worth the pickup if you're a Small Faces fan. They titled this album Magic Midgets, again a reference to these guys being short and where the name the Small Faces actually came about. And on the back here there's actually a little sort of Small Faces kind of logo kind of thing. So just got this one yesterday, but I've known this album for years because I had the download of this, and really happy to get this. Okay guys, that's 20 albums right there. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.